Okay, in this series of videos, we're going to talk about the default colors and how to remove them. We're going to talk about converting spot colors to process colors. We're going to discuss converting RGB colors to CMYK colors. We're going to talk about creating gradients. We're going to talk about adding effects to placed images. And lastly, we're going to talk about converting RGB images to CMYK images. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, first off, let's talk about how to remove these default colors. And really, the way you can remove them is really easy. And I highly recommend that because you'll see as we progress in this lesson why it's important to just have the colors that you need so that you're not tripping over colors that you don't need. So before you actually open a new page, all right, a new document, the first thing you want to do is when you open up your color palette, you're going to have these default colors that are built into the application. All you have to do is you go here, you click, and let me just pull this out so you can see it. All right, you just click here in this grid in the upper right hand corner. You can say select all unused, all right, and it's going to select all the colors that are not used, and you say delete. And then once you do that, you can actually just, because you didn't open up a new page, you can do that, and you will, every time you open up a new page, those colors will not appear. So basically, I'm going to put this back in the doc. All right, now let's say, for example, I open up a new page. Okay, I'll say okay, and then when I come over here, no colors. I could even close this down. I'll close this down. Okay, I'll even come out of the application. Then what I'll do is I'll just launch the application again. I will say new, and then when I say new, I'll open up the swatch palette, and you're going to see there are no colors there. So I highly recommend this. Before you even open a new page, delete those unnecessary colors because you're really not going to need them. And then you will not have to do that ever again. It will automatically remove them from the from the swatch palette so that you can put in your own custom colors. All right, next up is we're going to talk about converting spot colors to process colors. Okay, next up I want to talk about converting spot colors to process colors. Now right here on my document I have this this image of these flowers, and if I were to print this out right now and do color separation, it's going to print in the CMYK color space. I've taken the liberty of converting this to CMYK. So let's say, for example, if I go over here to Windows, I drop down to Output, and I slide over Output, and then I slide over to the Separation Preview. And what will happen is when I turn it, when I say Separation on, you'll see it's printing CMYK. So in other words, every color in the printing color gamut, all right, can be generated by these four process colors: cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So if I were to print this right now and separate it, it would be perfect. All right, very good. Now, what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to bring in a Google logo. All right, so I'll do a file place. All right, navigate my way to my logo. Here it is right here. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is when I put it in, watch what happens. As I put it in, all right, you're going to notice that these colors were added to the file because these are the colors, these are the spot colors that are in the logo. Now let's talk about what spot colors are. All right, when you are designing a logo, when a designer designs a logo, more than likely what they will do is they will incorporate spot colors. In other words, they're specific color combinations that are actually generated by a company that's called Pantone. Pantone is probably the most universally recognized color color library, if you will, for spot colors. And you'll see that there are spot colors here. Well, what does that mean? Well, if you notice that next to these colors, you see these little dots here, or these little spots. And that says that these are spot colors. So you might say, okay, no big whoop. Well, yes, there is. If I go over to Windows now and I drop down to where it says Output, and then I'll say Separation Preview, you'll notice that, okay, not only am I looking at the CMYK separation, but I'm also looking at an additional 4 colors that are going to be printed, which would make this an 8-color job. And in the wonderful world of print production, that could be very, very expensive. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to convert these colors, these Pantone colors, to process colors so that you only generate the necessary 4 colors, the 4 process colors. And here's how you do it. Really, really easy. So I'm going to put my finger on the Shift key. I'm going to select all of these Pantone colors. Okay, I'm going to double click. I'm going to open it up in the swatch options. Click on process. I'll say OK. And as you're going to notice, these little bullets went away. Not only did the little bullets go away, but let's see what happens when we go to separate this thing. Windows, Output, Separation Preview, and look, only 4 colors are going to be generated. Because what InDesign did was it took those spot color values and it broke it down into its CMYK complement, so that this way you will only generate 4 colors when you print this job. So that's one of the reasons why you really want to understand when you bring in imagery that has spot colors, you want to convert it to process colors, and in this way now you will keep your costs down when you go to output it. Next up, we're going to talk about converting RGB colors to CMYK. So stay tuned. Okay, next up we are going to talk about converting RGB colors to CMYK. As you look at this document right now, before we actually bring in the image, I wanted to show you this. If you go to the File, you drop down to Package, you'll notice that this column right here has to be clean. No yellow diamonds, no exclamation points. It has to be completely clean. And as you can see, this one is clean because there's nothing here. There's nothing on it. Well, let's put something on it and let's see what happens. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to File, Place. I'm going to navigate my way over to the my image here. And remember, when you pull anything down off the internet, it's going to be in the RGB color space. So you will probably, knowing how to do this is going to be critical as far as how you're going to handle your jobs for output. So now what I'm going to do is I put this image here. Here it is. Now watch this. I'm going to go up to File. I'm going to drop down to Package. And you'll notice that there's that little yellow diamond right there. And it'll tell you, I can click on Links and Images, and it'll tell you that this image is in the RGB color space, and that's not what we want. So we're going to convert that, and it's really, really easy. All you have to do is, if you're in the selection tool, you just mouse over the little donut right there in the middle. Put your finger on the Option and Command key or the Alt and Control key if you're on the PC. Double click, and it will open the image up in its native application, which is Photoshop. Here you can see it's RGB. We're going over to Image, Mode, slide over to CMYK. All right, you're going to get these alerts. You can just say OK. You can see it converted to CMYK. We'll save it. Okay, close it down. All right, and then when we come back here to InDesign, you're going to notice that InDesign will automatically update the image. So we can go over here to File, drop down to Package, and you can see it's clean. Also, the next thing we can do is we can also go over to Windows, drop down to Output, slide over to Separation Preview, and there you go. The only thing it's going to print is the CMYK colors. So that's how you can clean up your RGB imagery, and you can convert it to the CMYK color space. Next up, we're going to talk about creating gradients. Okay, creating a gradient is it's not that complicated, but there are a few things you have to remember. First, there are 2 types of gradients. There's a radial gradient, and then there's a linear gradient. So let's start. I'm going to create a frame. You can create a frame any size, doesn't make a difference. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to, once I've created this frame, I am going to fill it with a color. All right, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to, actually I'm going to use some CMYK colors. Maybe I'll put in a green. All right, and then what I'll do next is I will create another frame, and I will put in a yellow. Okay, so I'll just maybe select something in here. Okay, so I have these two colors, and actually what I'll do is, let me just duplicate this, and I'm going to put that green over here. So I have this yellow and this green. Now with this frame right now, I'm going to go up to Windows, I'm going to drop down to Gradient, all right, and then by default I'm going to get this very generic gray gradient. So I'm going to click on this, and there it is. It's basically going from light to dark. All right, now what I can do now is I can modify this gradient by putting in my own custom colors. For example, let's say for example if I want to add this green color. All right, so what I can do is I can tap on the green here, or this frame that has the green color fill. It pops up here as a little swatch color. I can take that and I can just add it right to the gradient slider. Same thing here. I can tap on this, and then I can take it and I can add it also to the gradient slider. So as you can see right now, I have four colors in this this slider. The white and the black that were there from the very beginning, and then the green and the yellow that I just put in there. Well, let's say I just want the green and the yellow. Easy. Just take out what I don't want. All right. For example, if I just move this over here, take this, pull it out. Okay, so now I have my green. I'm going to move this over here and then pull it out. So now I just have my green and yellow. All right. So now what I can do is, this is a swatch. I can come over here. And as you can see from the previous exercise, these colors, I don't need these anymore because that was from the previous exercise. So I'll say, and let me just move this over so you can see it. So I'll say, select all unused and just get rid of them because I don't need them. There's no need to have them in there. I just don't need them. Now I have this new gradient swatch that a custom gradient swatch that I just created. All right, I'm going to add this to the color palette. There's my gradient swatch. I'm going to click on this frame, and then I'm going to click on this, and here you have the this is the linear gradient. All right. Now I can change the direction by clicking this. So now it's going from green to yellow as opposed to yellow to green. So that's how I can change the direction. And then I can also change it from linear to a radial. So now you can see it's radiating from green out. I can switch it again. So it's going from green in. All right, great. But there's something else I can do with this gradient right here. I can actually control how much of the yellow is going to be part of the gradient and how much of the green is going to be part of the gradient. So as I have the slider up here, I can just move it in a little bit. So you can see that will make the yellow portion less. I can move it out, and that will make the yellow portion more. Okay, that's good. Let me just put that back in the middle. Put that at 50%. Okay. But now there's also something else I can do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the gradient tool. And that's this tool that's right over here, the gradient tool. Now once I do that, I can actually control the direction, of this particular gradient. For example, let's say I want instead of having this radiate from the dead center, let's say if I put the crosshairs a little further up, put my finger on the shift key to constrain the gradient flow, if you will. Now you can see now this is a little bit higher. And I can do the same thing. I can put it from here and bring it up. And now the gradient is a little lower. All right. And of course, the further out I pull the gradient tool is the more it'll radiate, if you will, from the center if it's a radial. And if it's a linear, I can change the direction by swiping downward. You can see now it's on an angle. Swiping up like so, it's on an angle going in the opposite direction. So the gradient tool will control the direction of the gradient, and it will also control how much it will radiate and from where it will radiate. Let's say, for example, I bring it back to the radial. And let's say I started from the upper left-hand corner. Click and drag. And as you can see, it's radiating out like so. Click and drag. It's radiating out like so. I can do it from this side. So that's what this gradient tool will do. All right, and the reason why you would put your finger on you don't have to put your finger on the shift key, but it will, like everything else, it will constrain the direction. So if I were to pull out a guide, and I put the guide in the middle of this frame, and then I started, say, from right here, put my finger on the shift key, and I click downward, and you'll see that it radiates from, let's see, yeah, it's radiating, well, it's a little off, but let's see if we can take care of that. Okay, so we can radiate down like so, and if we use the linear and we do it like so, you see it will radiate evenly, as opposed to if I didn't put my finger on the shift key, it'll go in the direction that I pointed. So anyway, that's how you can create a radiant color blend and swatch. Okay, lastly, I want to show you guys how to create effects around place images. Alright, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to go to File, I'm going to drop down to Place, and then I'm going to navigate my way to something that says Off-Road. I'll say Open. And it's basically an off-road vehicle. I'm just going to place it here. And what I want to do is I'm going to show you how you can actually create create effects around an image that has a transparent background, like a PSD file. So what I want to do here is I'm going to go to View. I'm going to change the display performance to high quality so it looks a little bit better. There you go. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you two ways you can do this. First, let's say I can select this image by using the direct selection tool or clicking on the little donut, and I know that I have the image selected because you can see the outline is like a brownish color. Then what I want to do is I'm going to go over to FX, and I'll put in outer glow. Alright, and what I want to do is whenever I'm working with a dark color like a black, you want to use multiply for the best effect. So instead of saying screen, I'll drop down to multiply. I will select the black color. Okay, and as you can see, there is, and I'll just increase that. I'll just make that 3 picas as far as the size is concerned, and you can see the effect, the outer glow effect that's around this image. I can also change the color of the actual frame and still maintain the outer glow effect in the image. So by selecting the frame, and you'll note the frame is selected because you'll see it has blue outline. Right now I'm going to give it like a green color, so I'll click on the swatch. I'll just click on a green color, and you can see the frame has a color green, and you can still see the black outer glow. That's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it is I will just do a Command Z, so I bring it back to where we just have the frame, the clear frame, and the image has the shadow. I can actually create another frame and I can stack it. So let's say, for example, if I create a much larger frame, alright, and I'm going to fill it with that green color, and I'm going to send it to the back. So I'll go over to Object, Arrange, Send it to back, and there you have that image is on top. And what I can do now is I can just move this. I can scale it. I can move it around. I can move it, down. I can move it up. I can put my finger on the Shift, the Command key, click on any one of the corners, and I can scale it down. All right, and of course the outer glow effect will still be there. All right, and I can change that. I can change the color of that outer glow effect. I can change the size of it For example, if I go to, I select the image, and you see it has the orange around there, effects, outer glow, all right, and I can change the size of it. I can make that 6. All right, and you can see it got a little bit larger. I can change the density. I can make it 100%. So as you can see, I have options when I can keep it in a frame and put the outer glow effect or any kind of effect. And if you see this outer glow effect looks like it's getting cut off, it's because the frame is a little bit too tight. No problem. I'll just make the frame a little larger, so that this way you'll see the entire effect. All right, so that's how you can, and there's so many other effects: outer glow, drop shadows, inner glow. I mean, there's a whole bunch of effects. As a matter of fact, you can click on that and play directional feather, basic feather. You can do all kinds of things. So that's how you can create effects around an image with a transparent background. So that concludes. Now you have enough information to be able to complete exercise 9.